I got drafted at 19 and ended up in Vietnam in 1967 and 68 with the U.S. Army from Fort Bragg, which was Air Defense Artillery, and ended up in Vietnam with my unit on the DMZ, or close to the DMZ, which was a very dangerous location. Of course, all the places in Vietnam were dangerous locations when the Vietnam War was going on. But anyway, so I didn't think I was going to have to go to Vietnam, so I married my high school sweetheart. We were married 2 months, and orders came down for my unit to go to Vietnam, and that was hard. That was tough. I made it back from Vietnam uninjured, without a scratch. It's a very fortunate thing. Of course, a lot of us came back home, without a scratch. I felt that I was one lucky guy, being in such a dangerous place and coming back home uninjured. That makes me appreciate to this day being able to come back home to my wife. In Vietnam, I started out writing letters to my wife and to my parents, maybe once every 2 weeks, a couple of weeks, write a letter. Then as time went by, I slowed way down from writing letters because I felt distant from them as time was going by. It's hard to explain, but I got in a state of mind that something could happen. I could lose my life any day. So most of us went from day to day with the thinking that there might not be a tomorrow, or there might not be a week to look forward to. It became a sad feeling, a depressed feeling that you did what you were told to do, but at the same time, most of us were nervous and somewhat scared about what's going to happen, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, or, so we lived in a state of mind that was somewhat seclusive, but still, you tried to be friends with everybody, and there were joking times and times that a lot of guys just picked on one another. Never any fights or anything like that. But I wrote less letters, turning everything around as I got really close to coming home. The writing letters kind of picked back up again. Most guys would start counting not only days but hours. As you got close to coming back home, my day finally came that I processed out of the base camp that I was at with my unit, and it was my turn to come back home, and I'm so thankful that I'm still here to tell you and whoever's watching or listening.
I enlisted when I was 17 years old. The day after I graduated from high school in Rochester, New York, there was an olive drab staff car in my driveway, driven by my recruiting sergeant, to take me to Buffalo, New York, to the reception station to get sworn in and say, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And from that, in a preliminary physical and some paperwork, whatever, a bunch of us were put on a train and sent down to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where I did all my initial training. We lived in old wooden World War II barracks, very drafty, very dry, real fire hazards. I spent my 18th birthday in basic training, wondering what the hell am I doing here? why did I do this? All my high school classmates were off with their girlfriends at the beach and drinking beer and having a good time before they went off to college, and I was in basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey. But I did that because I wanted to. My dad was career Army. I was brought up the first 10 years of my life in the Army. I lived in France, lived in Japan, lived in several places in the United States before my dad retired. And I think the military was in my blood. People talk about that. What does that really mean? But in my case, it meant that there was never anything else I wanted to do but what I wound up doing. Okay, well, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college. There's only one place I want to go, and I'm not going to give up trying on that. So, what the hell, why not go in the Army and get some experience? So that's what I did. And I did that for a year. Did get an appointment for West Point the following year. So I entered on the 1st of July, 1964, and graduated on the 5th of June, 1968. So we all had a specific purpose for being there. We all knew what was potentially in our future. Vietnam was not on anybody's mind in July of 1964. Most folks probably hadn't heard of it. There was no 24/7 news cycle in those days. There were 3 channels that broadcast from, and it wasn't until halfway through the beginning of my junior year, we had to swear another oath. We would accept a commission in the Army, and we would serve for 5 years as an officer. And about that time, we were getting graduates that were coming back to be buried in the West Point Cemetery. They were casualties from Vietnam, so that was becoming more of a focus for us. And we all knew that we were going to go. So I think overall the atmosphere got a little more serious. I think guys buckled down on their studies, and particularly on the military side of things, because again, sooner or later we were going to wind up in that live fire exercise. So it was a heck of an experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So when we graduated, I took an oath again as a commissioned officer to basically, again, agree to support and defend the Constitution, and started out on a 24-year career. I love the Army. I love serving. I love feeling like I was doing something worthwhile for my country. And during that time, the country was going through a lot of turmoil and problems, and much like today. I was always proud to wear my uniform. I was exceedingly proud of what I was doing. I wouldn't change a minute of it for anything. I retired before I had planned to because I wasn't going to allow to be around soldiers anymore. I had to go off to the Pentagon or other places and staff jobs or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. I like soldiers. I wanted to stay with soldiers. And, I'd have swept floors or peeled potatoes in the mess hall if that's what it took to stay. But it wasn't to be. So I made a very tough decision and decided that at a relatively young age, I was, 46, 47, something like that I would retire from the Army and try another career. But I have never given up thinking of myself as a soldier. I do today. I had a 17, 18-year career in the defense industry. I've been retired for 14, 15 years, I guess. I was in the Army in Vietnam, but my life was saved at one time by 2 Marine fighter pilots and another time by an Air Force gunship. Okay, so, and in both cases, things were dicey, and they did everything they could to help me out. And they put themselves in jeopardy to save some guys on the ground. That's one of the wonders of the military. Is that, we poke fun. Army guy poke fun at Marines or Navy guys or Air Force guys, but when when the nitty gritty occurs, they're there, like I would be for them if the situation were reversed. So I was missing that a lot. There were a lot of former military guys in Raytheon, so that was kind of comfortable. But coming here to Denver, North Carolina, there weren't a lot of us. So he suggested I come up to Pat's Gourmet Coffee Shop, owned by a guy by the name of Richard Ford, who'd been a gunship pilot in Vietnam. And he told me it was a regular coffee shop, but it was becoming kind of veteran-centric because Richard had this big, huge heart for vets, and particularly Vietnam guys. Particularly guys struggling with Agent Orange issues or post-traumatic stress or whatever. So I came up here one day and walked in and met Richard, and we'd both been in Vietnam at the same time, and we became instant friends.
Veterans Day comes around every year. It means a lot to me. It's in my heart. It's up here in my head, and I'm sure it's that way with most Vietnam veterans. I'm proud to have served in the military. Even though I'm a draftee, I'm proud to have served in the military. I don't regret serving in Vietnam. Most of us just don't like the way it ended, but most of us at the same time still don't regret being over there.
One of the most important things that I think I've learned from being a veteran is, so you always hear about people having trouble transitioning from being a veteran to doing other things. And a huge part of this is you don't join for money. It's a job that you do because you feel that the job is important. And that is an important thing to follow, to take with you through the rest of your life. So I went from, being a Marine infantryman to helping the State Department protect ambassadors overseas, to being a medic, to helping people. All of these jobs I felt were important. And I never had any problems with anything, never any ill will towards any job that I ever did until I started doing things solely for money. And it's a gross feeling if you've spent your entire life doing things that you feel are important and then going on to doing something solely because it pays well. So not that money's not important. It's important that you learn how to manage finances properly so that you can do something that you love, that you feel is important, that you feel helps people. Be whatever it is. Be whatever it is you want to do. Learn how to take care of your money properly so that you can do what is important to you for the rest of your life. Because if you don't, then your entire life is just going to be, 9 to 5, or depending on the job that you do. Some of these jobs are 12-hour day jobs where all you do is stack cash and have stuff, but you're miserable at the end of the day. And that is the thing that I think you should actively avoid having happen. And having been a veteran, having been in and served, that's one of the things that I've learned. I thought that would be important to pass on to people, to young gentlemen and ladies. All right, thank you.
We never serve for thanks, but we do appreciate some recognition and thanks when it does come our way.